All right, let's dive straight into this explainer. We're doing a complete, ground-up medical intervention on your UCAT prep strategy today so we can actually secure that medical school offer. Look, you're here, which means you already know the UCAT isn't just another exam. It's literally the single biggest bottleneck standing between you and med school, period. But the way most people prepare for it, it's frankly clinically ineffective. So today, we're going to fix that. We'll be looking at hard data and expert insights from top admissions professionals to completely overhaul your approach.
Here's our roadmap for today. First up, the diagnosis phase, looking at prep and plateaus. Then, targeted treatment for verbal reasoning. After that, surgical execution, test day mechanics. And finally, post-op, application strategy. Let's get into it.
So, starting with Section 1, diagnosis, prep, and plateaus. We've got to address the elephant in the room right off the bat. Why are your scores completely flatlining despite all the grueling hours you're putting in?
Hitting a score plateau? Yeah, it's frustrating. It's defeating. And honestly, it's pretty panic-inducing. But here's the good news. Admissions consultants who analyze thousands of these sessions know that flatlining scores almost always boil down to just a few catastrophic but entirely correctable study habits.
There are three main culprits holding you back right now. First, you're not working on the right things, basically applying exhausted strategies. Second, you're just not working enough because, let's face it, your 13 distractions are completely overwhelming. But the third reason, that's the most common one. You are not working efficiently. Seriously, mindlessly grinding through 50 practice questions teaches you absolutely nothing if you aren't ruthlessly reviewing your errors. If you're just racing through question banks without stopping to diagnose exactly why you got an answer wrong, well, you're just indefinitely repeating your mistakes. It's like running on a treadmill and expecting to get somewhere. And you know, your timeline matters just as much as your technique. If you're starting your prep in June, you're already too late. The UCAT absolutely rewards consistency over intensity. Your brain needs time to actually internalize these weird question formats, not just a frantic 2-week cram session before test day. You really need slow, consistent practice. We're talking about an hour a day, starting way back in April or May and peaking for a mid-August test date. Booking your exam for early July when you aren't fully prepared, that just piles on completely unnecessary pressure.
Moving right along to Section 2, targeted treatment, verbal reasoning. Verbal reasoning, the notoriously difficult subtest, where the vast majority of candidates score their absolute lowest.
There is a massive, stark contrast between how you read the passage and how top scorers read it. Right now, you're probably treating this like a typical high school reading comprehension test. You're reading to comprehend, to actually understand the passage. Huge mistake. What top scorers do instead is mechanically apply a rigid true, false, or can't tell framework. It's binary. If the text doesn't explicitly state or explicitly contradict a fact, the answer is can't tell. I don't care what your common sense is screaming at you. If you try to genuinely understand the text, you will completely destroy your timing. To stop your own outside assumptions from totally ruining your score, you've got to use this brilliant concept called the contamination test. Just ask yourself, if you replaced every single noun in the passage with an abstract symbol, would your answer change? If yes, oops, you are contaminating the question with your own outside knowledge. You absolutely must treat these as pure closed-loop logic puzzles based only on the text right in front of you. Look, the exam writers are sneaky. They deliberately set up these 6 psychological danger zones. They'll scatter information across a 400-word text so you fail if you just stop at the very first keyword you spot. They'll put 2 concepts near each other to trick you into assuming causation. But remember, unless you see explicit phrases like due to or resulting from, there is absolutely no causation. They also love to rely on your prior knowledge, hide relevant info behind tricky synonyms, or just bury simple numerical inferences deep in the text. Knowing these traps exist, honestly, that's half the battle in verbal reasoning right there. All right, let's jump to Section 3, surgical execution, test day mechanics. I'm about to give you the literal cheat codes for surviving test day and managing that extreme time pressure. 30 seconds, let that sink in. That is the terrifying reality of the UCAT. You've got an average of just 30 seconds per question. Under that kind of crushing time pressure, every single time you take your hand off the keyboard to drag your mouse across the screen, you are bleeding precious seconds. You just can't afford it. So, mastering exact keyboard shortcuts gives you a massive, undeniable mathematical advantage. Hitting Alt+N jumps to the next question instantly. Alt+P goes back. Alt+F flags a question so you can quickly circle back to it later. Instead of painfully dragging your cursor all the way to the top of the screen to click a tiny flag icon, boom, you just hit 2 keys. You have to build up muscle memory for these shortcuts during your daily practice. By test day, reaching for Alt-N needs to feel as automatic as breathing. And this gets even more critical in the quantitative reasoning and decision-making sections. To get lightning fast, press Alt+C to instantly pull up the on-screen calculator. But then, and this is absolutely crucial, you must use the physical number pad on your keyboard to type the numbers. Never ever click the on-screen calculator buttons with your mouse. No way. And when you finish a calculation, just smack the backspace key to clear the display instantly rather than hunting around for that little C button. These micro efficiencies, they might seem tiny, but they compound rapidly over a 2-hour exam.
Speaking of time, you absolutely must adopt the 25-second rule. Listen, every single question in a subtest is worth the exact same single mark. Spending 90 seconds agonizing over one brutally hard question is a fatal strategic error. Why? Because it literally steals the time you could have used to grab 2 totally easy marks a few questions down the line. If you hit 25 seconds and you're still stuck, flag it, guess a letter, because hey, there's no negative marking, and move on immediately. Do not look back.
Finally, we arrive at Section 4, post-op, the application strategy. Because the tragic truth here is that even a top-tier cognitive UCAT score can be rendered completely useless by a bad application strategy. The Situational Judgment Test, or SJT, man, people always treat this as an afterthought just because it doesn't add to your overall numerical score. But doing that is incredibly dangerous. Scoring a Band 4 on the SJT will trigger an automatic rejection at universities like Bristol and Edinburgh. It doesn't matter how spectacular your other cognitive scores are. A Band 4 can literally invalidate your entire application in one single stroke. You simply cannot rely on your good instincts to guess your way through the SJT. It doesn't work that way. You need to spend a dedicated, highly focused week learning the actual GMC, that's the General Medical Council, Good Medical Practice Framework. The examiners aren't testing if you're a nice person. They are specifically testing whether you understand professional values, ceilings of care, and strict medical ethics protocols.
When it comes to UCAS, you cannot treat your 4 medical school choices like a lottery ticket. If you've got a below-average UCAT score, applying to a strictly UCAT-heavy school like Newcastle isn't an ambitious reach. It's just a wasted choice. They shortlist heavily by the UCAT, and if you're below their threshold, nobody's even going to read your personal statement. You've got to be brutally honest with yourself and strategically map your actual score to the specific historical cutoffs of the schools you're targeting.
So I'm going to leave you with this provocative question to reflect on today. Are your daily study habits actually moving you closer to that medical school offer, or are they just giving you the comfortable illusion of progress? Stop mindlessly grinding through question banks. Start diagnosing your errors. Start applying mechanical logic frameworks. Memorize those keyboard shortcuts and plan your UCAS strategy based on hard data. Do all of that, and you are going to be in a fantastic position when exam day rolls around.